Good evening and welcome to our daily news program broadcast to you live here on Canal Algérie. Coming up shortly. The Army General Saeed Chingri, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, embarks on a working and inspection visit to the 5th Military Region in Constantine Province. And a serious misstep by a French far-right party that published a racist message targeting Algeria, a new provocation which reflects the casual racism prevailing in the country. In occupied Palestine, the situation is getting worse for the injured and sick people amid a severe shortage of equipment and the closing of humanitarian corridors. Welcome again. First in our news, Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi received the head of the Algerian Economic Renewal Council, Canal, as part of the periodic meetings held with the economic and social partners. The two sides discussed the latest measures taken by the government to accompany the economic operators pursuant to the guidelines of the President of the Republic. Moula also hailed the increase witnessed recently by the investment volume and the efforts being made to back the national economy and spearhead a global development. And in other news, and as part of his visits to the different military regions, the Army General Saeed Chingri, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, started this Tuesday a working and inspection visit to the 5th Military Region in Constantine Province. Melissa Kabash tells us more.
After the welcoming ceremony made by the Major General Noureddin Hambli, commander of the 5th Military Region, Army General observed a moment of silence in memory of martyr and hero Zeroud Youssef, whose name is borne by the headquarters of the region. A wreath of flower was then laid in front of the commemorative stele, and the opening chapter of the Quran, or Fatiha, was recited in memory of our valiant Shuhada. Accompanied by the commander of the 5th Military Region, Army General inaugurated a specialized consultation center belonging to the Military Health Services of Mansoura, where detailed explanations related to the achievement of the center before receiving other profound explanations regarding the services it offers and the military personnel that will benefit from it. An orientation meeting with the executives and personnel of the region was also held, during which the Army General addressed a keynote speech that was followed by a video conference by all units of the region. The Army General warned against the increase witnessed and the phenomenon of drug trafficking towards our country, aimed at affecting both physical and psychological health of the driving forces of our society, our youth in this case, by demoralizing it and pushing it towards drug consuming and criminality.
من قبل المصالح الأمنية المختلفة إلى حجز كميات ضخمة جدا من هذه السموم التي يحاول المجرمون وأعداء الوطن إدخالها إلى التراب الوطني.
Within this framework, the Army General reiterated that the different security services have seized large quantities of this poison that criminals and enemies of the country try to infiltrate to the national territories.
في هذا الصدد فإننا في الجيش الوطني الشعبي نولي أهمية خاصة لمحاربة هذه الظاهرة الخطيرة التي لن نتسامح أبدا مع بروناتها، وسنبقى بالمرصاد لمن يقف وراءها أو يمولها أو يدعمها. كما سنظل.
Army General Shangriha underlined that the People's National Army will stand ready in face of those supporting or financing the scourge by reinforcing our military and security devices along our borders.
يتعين عليكم في إقليم الناحية العسكرية الخامسة مضاعفة الجهود من أجل كشف شبكة التهريب والتحييد هؤلاء المجرمين خوانات الأمة والقضاء عليهم.
He also boosted those at the 5th Military Region to double their efforts to combat the narco-traffickers and traders of the region by implementing operational procedures adapted to these criminals and mobilizing all means to preserve our country from the scourge that falls within the plots being hatched against our country.
لا محالة ضمن المؤامرات الدنية التي تحاك ضد بلادنا.
At the end of this meeting, the Army General gave a series of guidelines to the region's personnel regarding the efforts aimed at gathering all security conditions for the upcoming summer season for the benefit of citizens. He also hailed the results recorded in the fight against terrorism and all forms of organized crimes.
In a different story, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad is still in the South Korean capital in order to take part in the proceedings of the Africa-Korea Summit. The roundup with Leticia Sadqawi.
Tasked by the President of the Republic, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, took part in the African-Korean Summit, proceedings of which kicked off on Tuesday in the South Korean capital, Seoul. It is the first meeting organized at the summit level between African states and the Republic of Korea to discuss means and ways as well as prospects of strengthening partnership between the African and Korean parties. In a speech on the occasion, Attaf noted that Algeria aspires that this high-level African-Korean partnership constitutes a qualitative addition. He underlined that Algeria, related to the Republic of Korea through bilateral strategic partnership, will spare no effort to contribute to the fulfillment of different programs and activities adopted by the summit to achieve the objectives of peace, security, and the development in Africa.
Regarding the political aspect of our partnership, I congratulate the coordination level between the African members of the Security Council or Group A3 and the Republic of Korea concerning issues related primarily to peace, security, and development in Africa. I commend on this occasion the support and the voting of South Korea in favor of granting Palestine full membership at the UN. We aspire that the Republic of South Korea officially recognizes the Palestinian state.
On the sidelines of his participation in the same summit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs received the President of Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki. The latter tasked Minister Attaf to convey greetings and appreciation to the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, as well as his willingness and keenness to work with him in order to promote cooperation relations between both countries and to consolidate bilateral coordination on issues of common interest on the regional and international levels. In the same respect, Attaf held a meeting with Minister of International Cooperation and Promotion of Public-Private Partnership of the Republic of Congo, Denise Crystal Sassou Nguesso. Attaf also met with many of his African counterparts in the framework of consultation and coordination on issues at the agenda of the summit. In a different context, the Foreign Minister, Attaf, also received a phone call from the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, concerning the latest developments in Gaza. The two ministers exchanged points of view on the initiative announced by the President of the USA, Joe Biden, at the UN level. Both sides also examined the necessary conditions for the Security Council to adopt this initiative. Attaf insisted on the need to take the opportunities presented through this initiative to reach a permanent ceasefire and to put an end to the sufferings endured by the Palestinian people in Gaza.
And a dangerous drift by the French extreme party, Right Party, after posing a racist message widely castigated by the leftists given the prejudicial content of the post targeting a sovereign state. More indications with our correspondent in France, Afaf Belhouchet, taken up by Ines Gilou.
Algeria is and remains always an obsession. In every French election is the target of hatred speech and xenophobic declarations. On May 30, Eric Ciotti, head of the Republican Party, tweeted a disgraceful response to a legitimate Algerian demand from the restitution of historical property. A populist message accompanied by a photo montage showing Algerians celebrating in Paris. Another provocation castigated by several left-wing figures headed by the president of the French-Algerian Friendship Group in the French Senate.
Je condamne totalement les réactions, notamment je pense du Parti des Républicains, de violence extrême contre l'Algérie.
I totally condemn these actions, particularly from the Republican Party, of extreme violence against Algeria. First of all, because I believe that when you are a Republican Party, you can't write like that with such violence and hatred against a sovereign state. And so, I condemn precisely this effect as violent.
Nous l'inscrivions dans un cadre, je l'ai dit, législatif pour voir ce que nous pouvons faire face à la demande des autorités algériennes.
The same xenophobia and complex indignation on social networks castigates the Green deputy Sandrine Rousseau, who qualifies the tweet of a woman. The socialist Arthur Delaporte interpreted it as a signal of incitement of hatred. Even the branch of the Republicans was moved, as was Xavier Bertrand, president of the Hauts-de-France region, who wrote that the tweet reflected neither the values nor the history of the Republicans and stated that no electoral calculation authorized insulting a country and its people.
To Gaza now, where the Zionist occupation army committed 7 new massacres over the past 24 hours, resulting in a heavy toll of 71 martyrs and 182 wounded. A large number of Palestinian victims remain under the rubble, while the occupation forces prevent aid from entering the enclave. Ines Kilou explains.
Nearly 8 months since the outbreak of war on Gaza, almost the entire territory is in ruins and the population is suffering, deprived of food, drinking water and medicine. 1.7 million inhabitants are now concentrated in less than a fifth of the enclave, living in unbearable conditions while humanitarian aid is blocked. On Tuesday, the bodies of 14 Palestinian martyrs were recovered by civil defense teams after the withdrawal of Zionist military vehicles from the southeastern areas of Gaza. Raids and bombardments targeted 2 houses in El Bureij and the Nusayrat camp, killing 43 people. The remains of the victims, as well as many of the wounded, were transported to Al-Aqsa Hospital.
Look at these remains of innocent children. Last night they were sleeping peacefully and today they are dead because of this missile.
In Al-Mawasi at Al-Jabaliyah, where many Palestinians have taken refuge since the start of the Zionist offensive on Rafah, sanitary conditions are appalling.
The Zionist occupation has destroyed everything. There's nothing left. The town of Jabaliyah is a field of ruins. Look at this landscape. It's like there's been an earthquake. All the houses are destroyed and there's no infrastructure left.
Children are the first victims of the Zionist genocide against the Palestinian people. Today, more than 15,000 have lost their lives to Zionist barbarism. Zionist forces have also arrested children, depriving them of food and health services, in addition to other serious violations which constitute crimes against human rights charters and conventions.
Before the war, I had a lot of dreams. I wanted to study, to succeed. I hope one day to go back to school so that we can go back to our previous life. Our daily life is still the same, fetching water and food, avoiding dangerous places.
All this is happening at a time when Palestine has filed a petition with the International Court of Justice to join South Africa's case against the Zionist entity committing genocide in Gaza.
To sports now, the national football team is getting ready for the game versus Guinea on Thursday as part of the World Cup qualifiers. The Fennec Foxes seek to continue their perfect start with a third consecutive victory. It is worth mentioning that Algeria is one of the 7 nations across 9 groups to win both fixtures in November of 2023. The game will be held at the Nelson Mandela Stadium here in Algiers, so let's wish all the best to our national team. And with that, we come to the end for today's program. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.